Every week it just gets worse. Newsweek said last week the Bush administration is homecoming week for the energy industry. And Dick Cheney's task force report is the pregame tailgate party. What they're talking about is Bush, last week paper, front page, Bush picks industry insiders to fill environmental posts. A mining industry lobbyist is the number 2 at the Interior Department. A lobbyist for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is the chief lawyer. The number 2 at the Environmental Protection Agency, a lobbyist for Monsanto, the chemical company now devoted to agribusiness. The chairman of the Council on Economic Equality, a lawyer who represented General Electric in its fight with the EPA over toxic waste sites. Folks, to say the fox is guarding the hen house.
Can you quantify how much it costs to corrupt a congressman?
I was actually thinking of writing a book, The Idiot's Guide to Buying a Congressman.
They're out in the open now. They're not even trying to conceal it anymore. The owners of the country they got their election. They said, we're going to get this election. We put you people in that court for a reason.
All right,
now's
back
the time
to earth for you now.
Yeah, forget all that stupid, will you? They're out in the open. They're openly driving the bus, and we're all in the back.
There is no national conspiracy to buy elections and control America. Now
Talk about back to earth.
Here are the numbers from 2010. 0.26% of America gave $200 or more to any federal candidate. 0.05% gave the maximum amount to any federal candidate. 0.01%, the 1% of the 1%, gave $10,000 or more to federal candidates. And in this election cycle, my favorite statistic is 0.000042%. For those of you doing the numbers, you know that's 132 Americans gave 60% of the super PAC money spent in the cycle we have just seen ending. So I'm just a lawyer. I look at this range of numbers, and I say it's fair for me to say it's 0.05% who are irrelevant funders in America.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They're in the same country clubs. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them, and they're getting it. And there used to be 7 oil companies. There are now 3. It will soon be 2. The things that matter in this country have been reduced in choice. There are 2 political parties. There are a handful of insurance companies. There are about 6 or 7 information things. But if you want a bagel, there are 23 flavors because you have the illusion. You have the illusion of choice.
The gentleman from Ohio.
The $700 billion bailout for Wall Street is being driven by fear, not fact. This is too much money in too short a time, going to too few people, while too many questions remain unanswered. Why aren't we having hearings on the plan we've just received? Why aren't we questioning the underlying premise of the need for a bailout with taxpayers' money? Why have we not even considered any alternatives other than to give $700 billion to Wall Street? Why aren't we asking Wall Street to clean up its own mess? Why aren't we passing new laws to stop the speculation which triggered this? Why aren't we putting up new regulatory structures to protect the investors? How do we even value the $700 billion in toxic assets? Why aren't we directly helping homeowners with their debt burden? Why aren't we helping American families faced with bankruptcy? Why aren't we reducing debts for Main Street instead of Wall Street? Is this the United States Congress or the board of directors of Goldman Sachs?
You know, the joke is that if you want to talk to someone from Goldman Sachs, call the Treasury Department.
When Barack Obama and I were literally sitting at a desk in a high-rise in Chicago, beginning to plan how we would try to get this economy out of a ditch. Literally, the first guy I called was John Corzine. Not a joke. Not a joke.
Andy Barr received $150,000 in PAC donations in just 6 months from the financial services industry when he's on the Financial Services Committee. Well, I didn't see that coming. Now, that's a tremendous amount of money for a freshman congressman who isn't supposed to have much power. Of course, they do if they're on this committee. Now, what did he give back in return? That's the interesting part. He promised to protect a federal tax break of $500 million a year to those same banks.
There is an economy here, an economy of influence, an economy with lobbyists at the center, which feeds on polarization. It feeds on dysfunction.
I think people are under the impression that the corruption only involves somebody handing over a check and getting a favor. And that's not the case. The corruption, the bribery, call it.
Okay.
Because ultimately that's what it is. That's what the whole system is.
The whole system's bribery?
I'm talking about giving a gift to somebody who makes a decision on behalf of the public. At the end of the day, that's really what bribery is. But it is done every day.
After the elections in November, Democratic Party leaders gave a PowerPoint presentation urging their freshman members to spend as much as 4 hours a day making fundraising calls while in Washington, and an additional hour of strategic outreach holding breakfasts or meet and greets with possible financial supporters. They spend more time raising money than they do actually legislating. And their party leadership tells them that.
You say politicians don't mention the word poor or poverty. Is it because there's nothing in it for them electorally? Is it because it's better for them to go to fundraisers, to talk to Wall Street CEOs, people who can fund their campaigns? Why is it precisely that they're not talking about the people who need them most?
In the tradition of the black church, Willie, I would just say amen to everything you just said. You've answered your own question.
Our democracy is being taken away from us by oil and gas. They have taken over at the state level, the local level, and the federal level. It's not how do you light your water, oil and gas makes you light your water on fire. This is oil and gas lighting our democracy on fire. This is oil and gas injecting toxic material into our democracy. Every dollar that they contribute, and they contributed $747 million to get their exemption to the Safe Drinking Water Act.
People of the United States of America, your Congress is bought. Your Congress is incapable of making legislation on healthcare, banking, trade, or taxes, because if they do it, they will lose their political funding and they won't do it.
There is no sensible reform possible until we end this corruption. So I want you to take hold, to grab the issue you care the most about. Climate change is mine, but it might be financial reform or a simpler tax system or inequality. Grab that issue, sit it down in front of you, look straight in its eyes and tell it there is no Christmas this year. There will never be a Christmas. We will never get your issue solved until we fix this issue first. So it's not that mine is the most important issue. It's not. Yours is the most important issue, but mine is the first issue. The issue we have to solve before we get to fix the issues you care about.
And until we get rid of the Congress, which is Jimmy Williams' constant point, which is get the money out of politics, and until a president says that's the problem and says he's going to fix it, there is no policy that I can possibly see, no matter how brilliant your idea may be, or your idea, or my idea, or her idea, or your idea at home, is that idea will not happen as long as there's the capacity to basically fire a politician who disagrees with me by taking funding away from him. Is that a fair assessment?
Money in politics is the root of all political evil.
First, I think most congressmen don't feel they're being bought. Most congressmen, I think, can, in their own mind, justify the system, rationalize. Yeah. And by the way, we wanted as lobbyists for them to feel that way.
Did he own you?
Oh, I don't believe Jack Abramoff owned me. But were we involved in the culture of corruption together? Absolutely.
Ney would eventually serve 17 months in federal prison, the only congressman who was ever charged in the scandal. But Abramoff says there were many other members that did his bidding that could have been charged.
By corruption, I don't mean brown paper bag, cash secreted among members of Congress. I don't mean Rob Blagojevich sense of corruption. I don't mean any criminal act. The corruption I'm talking about is perfectly legal.
Public Law 100-89 is amended by striking Section 207, paren, 101 stat, period, 668, 672, close paren.
Right, now isn't that obvious what that means? It was perfect. It was perfect.
So that's what you tried to get inserted.
Yes.
And that was going to provide for a casino.
Yes.
And who on earth is going to know that?
No one except the chairman of the committees.
Who stuck it in there?
Yes.
And that's one of the things you used to do?
Yes.
And that's done a lot.
Members don't read the bills.
You didn't even know what it was for.
Had no idea. And then when we got the written language...
Why didn't you know what it was for? That doesn't...
I didn't care.
Oh.
I'm saying we've got a real problem, and I'm tired of Republicans and Democrats who either want Republicans who want to burn the place to the ground, and Democrats, with all due respect, who want to offer a plan that gets it through their end of their second term of their presidency, and then screws me and my kids when it's over. And until we do that, we have to deal with the extraction that is at foot. It is the reason the financial markets are behaving the way they're behaving. That is a mathematical fact. This is not some opinion. This is a mathematical fact. Tens of trillions of dollars are being extracted from the United States of America. Democrats aren't doing it. Republicans are not doing it. An entire integrated system, financial system, trading system, taxing system that was created by both parties over a period of 2 decades is at work on our entire country right now.
All our legislators do is raise money. That's all they do. They don't legislate. They raise money and campaign, period.
You know, these are mainstream commentators who are talking about that we have essentially slipped into a plutocracy, that our government has been captured in many respects by big money.
Look, Sam, let me disagree with those voices only a little bit. We haven't slipped into it. We've rushed into it in full embrace.
How many congressional offices did you actually own?
It's right out in the open, man. They're rubbing your face in it. The system is built on corruption. It's legalized bribery, and they're telling you.
We probably had very strong influence in 100 offices at a time.
Wealth that is made in the market is capable of increasing one's power over regulation. Power over regulation allows increased opportunity to make money in the market. This is a positive feedback loop. That should scare any engineer or biologist, because positive feedback loops that are not bounded by some negative feedback force are unstable. They detonate, they explode.
We're about to collapse financially, but we also have a political system that's going to implode. The system, our form of democracy is so broken, with special interests on both sides. To your point, the Democrats and the Republicans are so beholden to this group and that group because they have to raise money.
When Ben Franklin was carried from the Constitutional Convention in September of 1787, he was stopped in the street by a woman who said, "Mr. Franklin, what have you wrought?" Franklin said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it. A republic, a representative democracy, a government dependent upon the people alone." We have lost that republic. All of us have to act to get it back. So how do we do it?
The first thing we need to do is we need to place a firewall that is impermeable between the marketplace and the regulatory apparatus.
Single statute. A statute establishing what we think of as small dollar funded elections, a statute of citizen funded campaigns, and there are any number of these proposals out there. Fair Elections Now Act, the American Anti-Corruption Act, an idea in my book that I call the Grant and Franklin Project to give vouchers to people to fund elections, an idea of John Sarbanes called the Grassroots Democracy Act. Each of these would fix this corruption by spreading out the influence of funders to all of us. The analytics are easy here. It's the politics that's hard.
No one's gonna take me alive. The time has come to make things right. You and I must fight for our rights. You and I must fight to survive. No one's gonna